So I want to go over the procedures in downloading the files since it's the first module. We'll click on that module 1 here in course content. And then scrolling down, you come to our zip file. And that's what you want to do at the start of every module. Just get the files into your folder. When you click on it, it'll go to this screenshot and then click on the download. And it will download. I would recommend you put it in that SketchUp folder, and specifically in the lecture spot. The lecture's inside this zip file. So click Save, and you have to wait until the program says it's done. It shows over here as being completed. So we can minimize this and go right to our SketchUp folder. Lectures. And you can see it's still in zip mode. This is something that students sometimes forget. They'll go right in here and start opening it up and think that they're right into the module itself. And that's not the case. That's not the case. So what you're going to want to do is you want to right click and extract all. And I go ahead and leave it in your lectures folder. And when it does, you'll see now we have another one. Notice the difference between a zipped file and a not zipped file. So this is our module 1, and inside it are all the files that are zipped, ready to go. So this is the lecture, and here is the files that you might need or the lecture talks about. By the way, if you don't see these last 3 letters behind the name, for example, in here, that PDF, or even in here where we have SKP files and so forth, if you don't see those on yours, we need to do one thing. Under the View menu, Show File Names Extensions. In other words, if yours looks like this, where you can't see that zip behind the word, this module zip file, you still have the icon, but still, it's good to have those last 3 letters. So View, Show File Name Extensions. And now we'll see them. And that'll be very helpful in our assignments. To make things less confusing, I would also delete the zip file out of your lectures folder. You've already unzipped it. If for some reason it didn't unzip fully, or you forgot a piece or something, you can always go back to Talent and grab whatever you're missing. I would just go ahead and drag that into the recycle bin or right-click delete, and now I won't be confused. Now I know that that's where all the folders are, that they have been unzipped and ready to use. While we're at it, let's take a look inside at what we unzipped. So inside the Module 1 folder, there's the lecture PDF, and then inside there's another folder called Module 1 Intro Tutorials. And they have the quick start guides and the self-paced tutorials. And again, our student success. We have the quick start guides and student success already in Talent, but these are a good way just to download it right here. If you click on quick start guides, you see we've got viewing and customizing Windows toolbars and Windows and Mac, and also our SketchUp guide. You may want to actually look at these and use them while you work on the projects early on in the beginning. Double clicking on it brings up this, and it shows you what the tools are, what you can find them, also keyboard shortcuts. And so it's just good to have, good and handy to have. And that's inside of our Quick Start Guide folder. That's inside of the Module 1 folder, inside of the Module 1 tutorial that we had unzipped. So welcome to the class and welcome to the first module. We will be introduced to the SketchUp program and how it can be used to create models. Now, you should already have the student version installed. If not, there's a PDF in Talon that you could go to. In course content, course tools, and installing the SketchUp student version. There's a video there and a PDF that'll help you do that. You should do this quickly because it can take a while, especially at the start of the semester when there's a lot of people all over the country trying to download and install a SketchUp version, student SketchUp version. If not, you're going to need to use the computers in the Alsop lab so you can complete your assignments on time because the deadlines are kind of fixed. The class builds on previous exercises and so forth. So as we build up on that, you'll have to have that work done to be able to proceed further. The version right now costs $55 for the year, but I just want to give a heads up that later in this semester, towards the end, we'll be asking you to purchase $150 year subscription for another program that we'll be using towards the end of the semester. Don't need to get it right away. There's no reason to get it right away. But just kind of prep for that so that when the time comes, you have the funds available for yourself. Some students have asked me about the online version of SketchUp, there's a free option to that one. And although you can do some of the early work that we have done in our class, by the end of the class, you won't be able to use this program. Additionally, the way that the toolbars are set up and what you can do with them, how the icons look and so forth are just slightly different, and it could be a little confusing. So we do prefer that you have the actual SketchUp program, and we will be focusing on the Windows version. I know SketchUp does come in Mac, but we will be working on the Windows version. So what is SketchUp? Let's take a look at this little movie here. It's using an older version, but it kind of covers what you can expect to see out of SketchUp and the kinds of stuff that can be done with SketchUp.
SketchUp Pro is a suite of powerful features and applications for streamlining your professional 3D workflow. Simple yet powerful drawing tools allow you to quickly create and share 3D models. From individual buildings to the city level, SketchUp Pro allows you to visualize projects of any size. Add entourage elements to better communicate your vision to clients or the public. Color code buildings to quickly convey zoning information. SketchUp Pro isn't limited to exteriors. It is ideal for designing and planning interior spaces. Browse and select components from an extensive library without leaving SketchUp to quickly and efficiently create 3D spaces. The end result is compelling presentations for clients and colleagues to review. Use SketchUp Pro to plan and visualize for all of the construction phases. From concept to presentation to construction, SketchUp Pro is the ideal 3D solution for your professional workflow.
Here's what some students have done in the class. So here's one of our earlier projects, modeling rooms and then creating renderings. These are pretty good renderings, I think. And again, this is all student work from class. Some students also worked outside and did projects on their own. And this one's a good example. This student, the parents' kitchen, they wanted to maybe remodel it and see if they had new cabinetry, what it would look like and so forth. And so the student modeled the kitchen and then modeled the equipment that they were thinking of using, and lo and behold, they did it. They were able to build by it and get the right idea of how it looked and all that. I think they did a great job. Here's another one where a student did something for their little brother. They wanted a climbing wall. And so she showed an example using a SketchUp model so the parents had an idea of what they're talking about height-wise and so forth. And they can maybe buy the supplies. And this is another project here where a student did a project and figured out the materials they needed to purchase for this particular design. So it's very handy as a program. And so I encourage everyone to go beyond this limits of this class. Work on projects on your own. I just give you a heads up. Just make sure you get the projects for the assignments done and submitted in time. Otherwise, it'd be great because at the end of the semester, you could share what these new projects are in your final project. So let's go ahead and open up SketchUp. One way is to do it through here. The other way is the start bar at the bottom of your screen. When it opens up, it'll look something like this. And I'm using the architectural one. You can also use a simple one. Either one of these would be okay. Just make sure they're the inches. It'll load up. And when it does, it should have all the toolbars and such that we had set up originally. If by any chance they're not set up yet, you can again go to the Course Tools folder. And in that folder, towards the bottom, is how to set up your toolbar in SketchUp. and it kind of holds your hand to how to do that. Although officially you are on your own, if you have decided to continue with a Mac computer, every now and then I will provide, if possible, some links so at least you can do some of the things. However, Macs don't operate the same way. Their icons are slightly different the way you set them up. So sadly, you'd be on your own if you decided to stay with your Mac option. You can see a person shows up in the window, the drawing window. That person, they have a new one every version. This particular one is a person named TomTom. We'll learn a little bit more about TomTom later on. He does a lot of these plugins for the SketchUp program, which are like additions to the SketchUp program. And so I think it's interesting they decided to use that person for this particular version of SketchUp. They're there to show scale because you're drawing things, and when you draw things, you're drawing them full size. And so the scale will tell you if it's a big thing or small thing and give you some reference. And every version has a different person. They usually alternate between males and females, and they switch back and forth year to year to year. Important things to be aware of is how you hold your mouse. You hold it like this with the index finger over here and the middle finger on this one. This will be considered the left button. This is the right button, and this is the scroll wheel in the middle. I know people have different kinds of devices, and so the standard 2-button mouse with a scroll wheel is set up like that. And you kind of should hold it like this. I know some people have held it kind of strangely, but you really should have your hand over it. It's supposed to be ergonomically designed to fit within the palm, kind of like that. If you notice on the side, the navigation tools are right here. These are the navigation tools, and one of the first things we will be looking at is navigation and how to move around, but kind of give you an example of what can be done. Orbit and pan and zoom are the 3 major ones, and you can use the buttons on the side, but it's recommended that you learn how to use your 2-button mouse and how to use the scroll wheel. Depending what you do with scroll wheel will depend on how it looks on the screen. It's a lot faster if you use your mouse as opposed to always going to the buttons on the side. During the presentation, so forth, I would be doing things like calling out click, double click, triple click, whatever. And what do I mean when I say that? So if this is the mouse and you're holding the mouse like this, clicking means always the left mouse button. So click, double click means twice fast. Triple click is 3 times fast on that mouse button. Right click is just 1 click on the right mouse button. When I say hover during the lecture, it means just kind of hover the cursor over what I asked you to hover over. There must be something I'm trying to show you how the computer responds when you hover over something. And then click, move, click. That is the standard way that SketchUp operates, and I'm going to try and kind of reinforce that throughout this presentation. You click on something, you move, and then you click it again. You don't click and drag. Again, click and drag is very rare in SketchUp. There's a couple of times you're going to use it, but most of the time you click, move, and click. And then the other one I have is called click, move away. That means you click it with the left mouse button, and then just move away from that. Get your hand away, because a lot of times what you might want to click something or click it again by mistake, and that's not what I want. I want you to have your hand off of it, away from the mouse, so that whatever I'm asking you to input next, you can input without by mistake clicking. So it's the click, move away stuff. Most of the times that's when you select something and then I want you to go somewhere else. I also recommend people to right-click every so often because context-sensitive menu will pop up, and there's things you can do mostly with the right-clicking. So, make a component or intersect faces, things like that are right-click only dependent. So every now and then, just to see what happens, right-click when you're in the middle of operations, see if there's any options there you're looking for. One thing we'll see throughout our operations here is that when we pick different kinds of tools on the toolbar to use, that the picking point is different. So, for example, on arrow, it's pretty typical. It's the point of the arrow what you want to click at. But you'll have a tape measure tool, and it's the bottom of the tape measure. Or this particular one's called the push-pull. It's the top of the arrow. The line tool becomes a pencil, and it's the tip of the pencil. And then I guess the oddest one is the move tool, where the intersection of the move crosshairs becomes the pick point of an object. When working on something, if you find yourself stuck in a command you can't get out of, or If you're doing something and you just want to stop what you're doing and you can't quite seem to get the program to stop for you, I would hit either the space bar on your keyboard, or move your cursor over here and click on that tool right there, the select tool, which is the default tool, by the way, when it comes up. Another thing too, while we're looking at the toolbars, is that if you hover over a toolbar, it tells you what the name of the tool is and what to expect. Also, when you select it, over here the instructor changes, and you'll have information on how that tool runs. To get to the instructor, you can look at Window Default Tray Instructor if it's not already there. It's typically one of the things that are set up originally at the start. Another one to get really acquainted with is Undo. You can either hit Control and Z on the keyboard, or just hit the Undo button. It's right here. And sometimes it happens that you're working on something and you by mistake erase something you didn't want to erase, or you move something you didn't want to move. Hit the space bar to get out of the command, Control Z or the Undo button. It'll get you back to where you were. Also, the help. Help is very good to have. There's a help center there. So when you go up to help and say Help Center, it'll bring up a web page, and the web page will say, hey, what do you need help with? And some major things here you can look at. Also, periodically, I'll have links that you can go to different places on site. On the PDF, these links should work. And so you can click those links on the PDF and get you there, and then you can keep learning about different things. Ideally, the class lectures too would be helpful. You've downloaded the class lectures, so you have them as a great resource, and I would keep them. I've actually had some students email me a year or so after the class and say, hey, can I have those lectures again? And I got to go search for them. So it's just good if you just save these and put them somewhere safe and you have it. But this is an email I received a couple of years ago from a student saying, hey, I had a real experience. And I realized that I went back and learned from one of the assignments, the hotel sofa assignment. I was able to do something for their boss, basically, for their employer. And it said, hey, that was really good, how to do that. So let's get into it and make this little playhouse, let's say. We're going to make this little playhouse here and learn some of the tools and how they operate and what to think about. So we have SketchUp open, and the selection tool should probably be selected. It seems a little daunting at first, all these icons and all the things here and all the things here, but in reality, you'll be using maybe 10% of them 90% of the time. And you'll see after a while, it's almost going to be second nature. And I'm also going to kind of focus in the lectures on the keyboard shortcuts because sometimes the location of the icons changes, sometimes the images change, things like that, but the keyboard shortcuts usually stay the same from version by version by version. And I would recommend that on any CAD program. So we'll start with the rectangle tool. Looks something like this. And notice that the icon itself kind of hints at what you'll be doing. So it shows a rectangle being made by 2 points, a start and an end point, diagonal from each other. That's how that tool works. So click, and I'll set somewhere on the surface here. Again, notice that the pencil has like this little blue rectangle stuck to it, a little square on the side. So click, move, and you can see that we've got a dashed line sometimes occurring. Like here's occurring, here's occurring, sometimes not. So what's going on with this dashed line? Well, there are simple tools to let you know certain types of shapes being made of the rectangle. So one of them is the square. So if the rectangle you're making is a perfect square, you'll have that little diagonal line across it. Now, it doesn't look like a square in this picture because we're in perspective, and that's something else to get used to. I think it's best to just get used to drawing 3D from the get-go because there's some certain things about it that you need to be aware of as you draw in 3D. So use the tools in the program to help you understand. So if you're making a square, you want it to be a square, that's the graphic you want to see inside of that. The other one is called the golden section. And the golden section is basically a ratio. It's a ratio it's called the golden section ratio because it's found in nature. It's a proportional thing found in nature. And we'll learn more about that in another class in the future. Just be aware that these are two of the standard shapes that a rectangle makes that the SketchUp program wants to highlight for you in case you're searching for those proportions. For right now, just click somewhere, click. And the minute you do, all of a sudden you have a surface. By the way, I'm orbiting by holding down the scroll wheel. Well, go ahead and do that. Let's get practicing a little bit of that. So if you hold down the scroll wheel on your mouse and go up or down like this, you are basically orbiting. And you can go around this way too, sideways. So I'm going to go kind of a little bit like this. Now, I just eyeballed that shape. But let's say I wanted a certain size. Let's undo that a second. There's the undo button. Click, move, and let go of my mouse. Don't touch my mouse. First of all, you'll notice down here that there's some dimensions down here in our measurement bar. And let's say we want it to be 4 foot by 6 foot. We'll type in 4 foot. I use the foot symbol, which is like an apostrophe symbol on the keyboard, comma, 6 foot, enter. That shape is now 4 foot by 6 foot. So once you have the kind of the base of the shape, then you push-pull it into 3D. And that will use this tool right here. This is the push-pull tool. So I'm going to select it. And when I move away, you can see my cursor changed to that push-pull symbol. And now notice too, it's got a little point to it, right? So I know the pointer is the top of that red arrow. Notice that when I hover over the shape, because I can push-pull this shape, I get these little blue dots. Again, another visual clue that you can do something with this. Notice when I put it over here, I don't. I actually have it like a can't do symbol next to it. And we'll talk more about that. This person is a component made up of different surfaces. So you can't push-pull a component. Again, we'll get to touch back later in the semester. But this we can. So let's say I want it to be 4.5 feet tall. So click to start. And now I'm going to move my mouse. I'm not dragging. In other words, this is one of the times I said, do not try to click and drag. You won't be as accurate. So I clicked and I moved. So I clicked to select the surface. I moved it up to say which direction, because I could also have moved it down, right? I could go up or down with the push-pull. So I moved it up, and now I'm going to type in 4.5 feet. 4.5 feet. Press enter. A couple of things. First of all, that is 4.5 foot tall. The other thing to notice is down here, the distance was written out as 4 foot 6 inches. And that's correct. That's 4.5 feet. So it'll turn it to regular feet inches. You can type in whatever you want, but it'll turn it to that. All right. So the shape we're trying to have has like a little peak roof. So I want to kind of divide the top of this surface in half and pull up the roof. So here's my pencil. It's the line tool. Click. And as I put my pencil point on certain areas, you'll see right now, I'm getting a little red square at the tip of my pencil. That tells me I'm on the edge. I'm on that edge. I'll go over here. It tells me I'm on the edge here. If I go to this piece right there, that tells me I'm at the end point of a line. Do you see the different graphic? Again, we'll learn more about this in the future, but that green circle is an end point. That red square is on edge. The blue diamond is on face. And then and a cyan color is the midpoint symbol. So I'm going to click here, click midpoint of the front. I'm going to move my cursor back in space. Now, as I move it back, notice I'm getting a green line. That means I'm parallel with the green axes. And again, we're going to talk more about this later, but I'd like you to start kind of intuiting some of these things. If I get off the green line, if I only have a black line, well, that tells me that I'm not in line with that axis. So you want to be. And actually, if you go back here and wait to get midpoint in the back, you will get that line looking green. By the way, just while we're looking at it, if I go in the other direction on red, the line becomes red. If I go straight up, the line becomes blue. And we'll learn more about these axes later in the semester. So we got here, we're going to click. And now we've broken that surface. Notice when I click, the line becomes black, like a normal line here. Everything ready to go. At this point, we've done some work. And I think one of the things I like to make sure that you are aware of is to save often. It's very easy to work a long time and then something happens and then you lose your work. So I recommend you save on a regular basis. We'll go to File, Save As, And then go find your SketchUp folder that you made. And I would put it under assignments. That way you know where to find it. And it's going to default to untitled. What would be good then is to give it a name that makes sense. So let's call it Playhouse. And then I usually use a dash. You can use an underscore or whatever. And I put my initials. And then it'll add the SKP at the end. So Playhouse, SKP. So from here on out, I can just hit the save button right here because it'll save it in the same folder with the same name. All right, so how do I bring this up to get that little peak situation working? So I'm gonna select the line. So what I like to do a lot of times with the move tool is select first, then do. And that's something you do with many Windows operations. Select something, like you select something, you copy it, or you paste it or whatever, make it bold in Word documents, for example. Well, in this case, I'm gonna select the line and I'll hit the move tool. Here's the move tool right here, click. And again, it's gonna wanna do the middle. So how it wants to grab the middle, how it wants that middle to be something. So I'm gonna click and I'm gonna move upwards. Now, as I move upwards, I want it to say on blue axis. Do you see that on the screen? It says on blue axis. If I do something like this, it's not in the blue axis. It means it's not going straight up. It's going in the up direction, but not straight up. I want it to be up. So you can just kind of hover until it'll kind of snap to it when you get close to it. Also, if you want to, you can hit the up arrow key on your keyboard. That will lock it in the blue. Now, when I do that, it makes it look funny on the screen, but it's fine. It's going straight up, and it's not going to create any dark blue area. It's just the way the program looks on the screen. And let's type in 30 for 30 inches and press enter. Now, a couple of things you should note. I did not have to put in the inch symbol for it to go up 30 inches. That's because this program, right, we started architectural and we also started inches. And so that's why. It's in inch mode, so I don't have to type in inches. That's the value of setting kind of the units we'll be using. So now this is perfectly level. It's 30 inches up and it's evenly symmetrical. If by any chance you hadn't done that, it might not be perfectly symmetrical. So if you remember, what we're going to shoot for is that door in the front of the playhouse, that little kind of arch top door. And so we want to maybe position it in an exact location. And one tool we can use for that is the tape measure tool right here. Click on the tape measure tool. Again, notice how the tape measure tool looks different now. And it's going to want to pick on the point of the tape measure tool. Again, notice how that wants to be selected. So I'm going to hover on this line. I'm not clicking or dragging, I'm just hovering over the line. I'm going to click and I'm going to move inwards. Notice it created a dashed line. Notice too that my cursor is showing as if it's red. So I'm going to type in 12 inch, press enter. Now that dashed line is 12 inches from that edge. I'm going to do the same over here. Click, go across, type in 12, press enter. So now I've got two lines. It's going to be a 2-foot door. I can use the tape measure tool to measure. Click, and sure enough, it says 2 feet. See that? So I'm going to press escape to get out of that command. So tape measure tools can measure, but also can create construction lines. And then from the bottom up, again, I'm going to go from the bottom up, and I'm going to try and stay away from the midpoint. Again, sometimes the midpoint creates different kinds of lines. Click, go up, type in 48, and now I've got a location that I can snap to. Now I went straight up, I went straight across. So that made it sure. If you orbit, remember, hold down the scroll wheel and you can orbit. We can click the rectangle tool, or we can type in R for rectangle. Immediately my cursor changed to the rectangle tool. And I know it's the rectangle tool because of the icon it uses. Type in T, that's the tape measure tool. R, rectangle tool. L, line tool. Notice the rectangle's gone, but I do like the rectangle tool. I like the rectangle tool because it keeps things perpendicular and 90 degrees from each other. So that's what we want here. R, rectangle tool. I'm going to hover, and just as before, when I hover close to these intersections, I'm going to get a little X. See that? So it's kind of a visual clue. Notice too, for my rectangle, if I'm here, it's green, but if I go over here, it's red. It tells me what plane I'm perpendicular to in this case, or I'll be drawing a rectangle here, perpendicular to the red plane. Here's the green plane. That angled plane is just black. So click, move my cursor. Notice I'm getting a green rectangle here, and then click. done. I've got that surface broken and it's perfectly centered. So now it's a round top. Well, we can't just click on this and make it a round top. I'm going to have to maybe make a circle and use the circle tool to make that top. Well, here's a circle tool right under the rectangle tool is a circle tool. Click on it. Again, take a look at the graphic. It says center point's black and then the outer point's red, and that's how the circle tool works. I need to locate a center and then go outwards. As before, if it's on this surface, it's green. If it's on this one, it's red, and of course that would like that. If it's on the floor, it'll be blue, right? Because blue, that'd be perpendicular to the blue plane. All right, so I want to be in the center here. Click to start, and now I can make my circle whatever size I want. Click my pencil point of the circle tool here, right here. Click. Now, I could have done this a different way, but for right now, we're using this tool because there's a couple things I want to show you with it. Now I want to erase. I can click on the eraser tool here, or just type in E for erase, and all of a sudden my cursor changes. And notice at the bottom of the eraser is that little circle to show that that's the point, the pick point. And I can also erase these guidelines, or a quick way I can do that is under Edit, Delete Guides, and then all the guides are gone. The guides are good to use while you're building something, but when you've used it and you're done, then you don't need to keep them. They sometimes can get in the way. So now I'm going to use P for push-pull. And by the way, I'm using the keyboard shortcuts, but if you want to go back over here and grab the tools from over here, that's fine. In other words, my cursor, my hand's still on my cursor. I don't have to take it off to touch the keyboard. So it's really very convenient. As I hover, notice I can hover over the center where the shape is, or outside. And I could hover over any of these planes. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to go in, right? I can go out. I'm going to go in, type in 4, press enter, and that is what I want it to be. One last trick, again, that how a tool can do more than one thing. Type in E to get the eraser tool back. So now, I didn't want that line there. I'd rather it not be there on either side. It happens because we have what? The top of the rectangle and then the curve of the circle. But if I erase this, it erases more. It erases more than that. It takes in the whole side and everything. So it doesn't quite work very well because I've erased an edge and the whole edge gone. So undo. But what I can do, if I tap the control key, notice the shape of that line. This is pure erase. This is smooth. If I click on this, it smoothed the line. And that's what's happening on this curve, by the way. The SketchUp program does not do pure curves. All curves are made of small, short segments. If I go to View, Hidden Geometry, I'm seeing now these segments. And we'll be using that in a future exercise. For right now, let's go back to View and take off Hidden Geometry. Orbit to the other side. I'm still, look, there's a little squiggle line at the bottom of my eraser tool, so I can still go back in there and just tap that and smooth it out. So now my piece looks pretty clean, pretty good. By the way, I'm zooming in and zooming out using the scroll wheel again, right? The scroll wheel, if I don't press down on it, I can zoom. And I'll zoom to where I have my mouse. And we'll work on that too in our next project. So this playhouse is now complete. So let's hit the Save button. And then let's go ahead and exit out of the SketchUp program. And look and see what it looks like inside of our folder. So here's our SketchUp folder. So we go into the assignments folder, and we can see that there are 2 files there, the SKP and SKB. SKP files are the most recent up-to-date file. Think of the word SketchUp. It ends with P, so the most recent file ends with P. So what is this file about? Well, that's the most recent backup. So that's the last save you did. So if you saved it a long time ago, that's when it was saved. If you saved it recently, it'll be a recent save. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. You may be able to double click this and open up the SKB file like I have it set up, or it may say I can't find a program, and that makes sense. But what you can do is inside SketchUp, if you go up to File, Open, and then click on your assignments folder, and you don't see an SKB file. Typically, when you open up a file in SketchUp, it's going to want to look for only SketchUp files. So you click this down triangle and select all files. And now we have the SKB file. So let's go and open that one up. So click on that, click on open. And then you can see that was our last save, right? We saved it when we just had drawn that line in there. Let's go ahead and hit the open button again. And then, back to the SKP only. We're back to the file we want. So we want to make sure we keep track of that as we go through it, and save often so that we have not too far distance between the last backup. So let's look at the tutorial files to work through a tutorial file in SketchUp. File, open, and then out of the assignments folder, go to the SketchUp folder, go back to the lectures folder, module 1 lectures, and self-paced tutorials. And you'll see here are self-paced tutorials. They're SketchUp files. Let's click on the first one, intro, and see how that works. Now you'll see these error messages will pop up periodically. And basically it just says it's an older version of SketchUp. Are you sure you want to work with it? Because if you save it, you can only open it up in this version, and later you couldn't open it back up in that version the file was made. So for our purposes, it'll be just fine. And I want to work through this one together. You can see how the tutorial files work. Click OK. And then basically this particular one has these screen tabs at the top. It says, hey, see these numbers? Just click on a tab to move to the next part, and we will tell you which tab is next down here. So very well. So it says click tab 2. So click on tab 2. And then because this one is a little bit more verbiage than the other ones will, but it says, hey, drawing on 2D paper is limited. When you actually build something in 3D, you can see it better. And you simply draw shapes and pull them up into 3D. Click on tab 3 to continue. And so these are the ones that this particular tutorial wants to highlight, which a lot of them we sort of did already. We got the rectangle, push, pull, and orbit, and zoom. So we did quite a few of these. Click on tab 4 to continue. And we did them from over here because there's a lot more tools to work with. So here it says, try explore this for yourself. Click on the orbit tool. So they want you to click on this tool here, click, and then click around. Click on it to use this tool. So I'm using my left mouse button when I use the orbit tool. But if I was in selection mode, I can hold down the middle scroll wheel and do the same thing. Okay, click 5. And it says, hey, we are not rotating the piece. We're just moving around it. And so they're making sure that you understand that that's what you're doing. And then they want you to practice. So you can either use the button and then use the left mouse button, or you can hold down the scroll wheel and look at the different views. So here, right? Looking at all the different views, including the top, and including the bottom. Click on tab 7. Explore more 3D. The zoom tool. Well, that's right here. This is zoom. This is zoom window. Zoom tool will be fine. Click on zoom. And it says, look, it changes into a zoom thing, and you hold the mouse button, click back and forth, up and down with your mouse wherever your mouse is. So the mouse on your hand. If you were using the select tool, right, or any other tool, you can use the scroll wheel to do the same thing. And again, I really do like using the scroll wheel wherever possible. So the trick about the zoom tool, though, is whatever your cursor is, that's what you'll zoom to. So if I want to see this drawer, I got to put my cursor there, and I'll zoom into that drawer. And then scroll back out. If I want to see the bottom of the seat here, put your cursor there. So wherever your cursor is where you will zoom the drawer handle. And it works the same way here, except you just have no real control. It's kind of wherever you are on the screen. So that's why I prefer using the select tool and the scroll wheel, because you really do have a very better chance of this. Have a better chance of getting what you want to see. Like, what's that lock-in going on there? Click tab 8. They want you to use the pan tool. So it looks like that. Click. And that basically goes left to right. But you can do the same thing with the select tool selected or any other tool. if I hold down the Shift key on the keyboard and hold down the scroll wheel on my mouse, it becomes pan. And pan and zoom are used a lot together. So we're going to go here, and we're going to pan over here, and zoom over here. We're going to pan over here. We're going to zoom in here, right? So going back and forth between the zooming, the scrolling, and the panning works really well together. Click on tab 9. Then they want you to use all three together, zooming, scrolling, and panning. I'll let you do that on your own. But by the way, you're welcome to come back to this intro when we're done with it too, if you want to do it all over again. Maybe go slower or try some things out. Now, number 10, they start the actual drawing process. And they want you to draw 3 rectangles on the surface. And they want them to be not overlapping. So, all right. So here's a rectangle tool. We've done that already once. So I'm going to just make 1 rectangle, 2 rectangles, 3 rectangles, right? So we got 3 rectangles like they requested. And in this case, you can make them any shape you want. In the later tutorials, they'll be asking specific sizes perhaps, and that's what you would want to focus on. But for this one, they just want you to have a feeling for the rectangle tool. Click tab 11. And so now they want us to use the orbit tool to look around. So I'm going to hold down the key and look around. Okay, there they are. Yep, good. All right. Number 12. Then they use the push-pull tool. And so they're just showing you an idea. So here's our push-pull tool. You can see as I go over a certain shape, I get the dots, those little dots everywhere. So I'm going to click, move, click. So click to pick up, click, move, and I can go up or down, right? I haven't clicked again. And I'm not dragging. I'm just moving up and down. Click. Now it's done. Click, move, click. 13. Now they want to do something a little bit bigger. By the way, if you orbit, you can kind of see where all the blocks are, maybe, depending on where you are. But they want us to do something a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do a rectangle, or type in R. Nice big rectangle. And I'm going to push-pull it, P for push-pull. I'll push-pull up to a box. Number 14. Then they want me to draw from one corner of the box to the other another rectangle. Okay. So I might need to scroll out a little bit. And I want to make sure I'm on the blue. So make sure it stays blue. You might want to hit the up arrow key on the keyboard and then it stays blue for sure. Click, move across, click. And I've broken up the top of that face there now. P for push-pull, click and go up. And now I've got like a floor and 2 walls perhaps. And now they want you to make other squares and push-pull them. So go ahead and make other rectangles and just kind of on the surface, different kinds, come from the edges. It doesn't really matter how you do this. It's whatever design you want. And then push-pull up or push-pull down. If you click on this surface, and then when you go back, click to this one. You can see I'm still going back over here, but if you click over here to this edge, it'll create a hole. When 2 surfaces meet, they disappear. We'll learn more about that later too. And actually now I can go back here and go up. So now I've got it up here lined up with there. I can move this and go to this edge too. So they want you just to play around with this shape. And again, I'm zooming, I'm panning, I'm shifting, I'm orbiting. So between orbit and zoom and pan, you really can navigate pretty well. And that is going to be one of the other major events that we'll be working on as we work through the early parts of this program. And for sit, now you can sit back and congratulate yourself on creating this first 3D model. It looks great. Let's go back to tab 15 a second. So here's our work that we did. This little tip I want to show you that we'll learn about much, much later, but I think could be very helpful, especially at the beginning, knowing how to do this. Over here in the default tray, there's something called styles. And if you don't have the word styles here in your default tray, go to Window, Default Tray, and make sure styles is checked. If it is checked, you have it here. You just have to go find it. And I like to keep my little trays tight, right, nice and closed. And then I can click on it to open it up. And when you open it up, I might need to get here and make this window a little bit bigger so I can see more of my window. So sometimes when you close it, you open it up, you might need to make it bigger if there's not enough there. But here is the style we're using. And if I go to the Edit tab, I can see different things I can modify. And right now, again, we're not going to do something too complicated. But one thing I want you to look at is this color, all the same. If you click on this down triangle, we can select it by axis. So click by axis, and look what happened to this piece now. Now I know which lines are parallel in the green, which lines are parallel in the blue, and which lines are parallel in the red. And then if I draw a line that is not parallel to anything, it'll be black. But this is very, very handy, especially at the beginning when you're starting to draw, you draw something and you think you got it right, and then all of a sudden you pull it up and you're like, what? Something's weird here. Well, yeah, it's weird that's not the right, that's not square. So again, drawing in this really becomes very helpful because you'll know whether or not you're on axis or not, and which axis you're on, right? So just a tip. Do you not like it? If you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, go back to all same, and you don't have to worry about it. And so now I want to save this assignment. So I'll go to File, Save As. If I hit Save, I'll replace my intro file automatically, right? But if you do File, Save As, I can put it in the folder I want. Now, in this particular example, let me open this up just a little bit here. I'm grabbing this side here and clicking and dragging this box so I can read it better. I think I'm going to want to move it somewhere else. So I'm going to click into here, and then click into the lectures, and click into the SketchUp class here, and then go to assignments. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it intro. And what I'll do is I'm going to get rid of all those last three letters after the period, after that dot. And I'll go dash, and I'll put J.A.L., my initials, right? My initials, and hit save. And so now, if I look up here on the title here, you can see that it has my initials now. By using Save As, I've made a copy, and the original is still the way it was when I first opened it, available for me to use. I can exit out of here. Since I haven't worked in it, I'm saving it. And I go back to my folder here, and I can see that I've got my file sitting here. I've only saved the intro once, so there's no backup to it. And you might want to do this as well. You can go New, Folder, Module 1. And you can click and drag these into Module 1, because this was all Module 1 work. If I double click on it, I can see all my files there. That makes sense? So now I would have my lectures in the module, and I'll have my assignments in the module. It's going to be easy to find things. And so remember, to upload it, you want to go to your Module 1, you want to go to the self-paced tutorials, and then what I would do is I would go ahead and go ahead and submit them. Drag them right in there, submit them as you get them done. You need to have all 6 of them to get credit, but otherwise you'll be good. So in the lecture, I usually have the assignment information as listed. So here it is, assignment, complete the tutorials, work through them in order, and then upload to Talent. So all tutorials must be submitted properly. And you already did this one. Number 1, you did it in this lecture, and so you're ready to do that. Most assignments are 1 point. These are 3-point assignments. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for 3 of the 6 files that were submitted. I'll just take a random 3 and see if you got the work done. And what you're showing me is that you can follow the steps in the program. I do want you to consider playing with SketchUp every day, like open it up in the mornings or whenever you have some time during lunch or something like that, and do something. Try to see, can you build something? Play around with those tools, right? How do they work? How do you click and so forth? Try to make a new object every day. Maybe the first time you just make a couple of squares and call it good. Later on, you make some other shapes. If you have questions, email me. We can make an appointment. I can Zoom. And I would strongly urge you not to wait till the last minute to complete an assignment because you might have some questions. So today, everything might be very clear. And a couple of days from now, you're like, how do I make this thing work again? I'm also asking you to look at some videos before the next module. These Square One learning videos, they're very good links. They're common tools. Some we've used today, some we'll be using in the next session. So I want you to make sure you look at these specific ones. And we'll be doing quite a few of them by the semester's end. If you add them up, it's about maybe an hour's worth at the most. And you don't have to sit and do all of them all at once. You can certainly just take a few at a time, again, maybe through your lunch hour, or maybe just a break from other studying going on. There's nothing you need to turn in, nothing you have to submit, but our next module, I'm expecting you to know these things so that we move forward. We're always moving forward and getting more complicated and deeper into the SketchUp program. So watching videos, I recommend taking notes because you can always use notes for review and look things over. Maybe when you're working on something like, how do you do that? What's the keyboard shortcut for that? And then pause the videos occasionally and try the stuff out that they're showing you on the video. That's something very good to do as well. And of course, go at your own pace. That's the beauty of this situation here. You can go at your own pace going through those videos. So when you exit SketchUp, you can go ahead and exit, either go File, Exit, or hit the little X at the corner there. And then make sure you save off along the way. So how can you know what is due? We've covered a lot today. How do you know what's due or when's due or how to do it? So at the end of each lecture is an assignment recap. So here's my lecture. At the end, if you look at the PDF, you'll see that there's an assignment recap. And you can search through the lecture by using Control F. Control F is the find feature in a program and find the word assignment. So if you do that in your PDF, you'll find the words assignment. And remember, the assignment is always on title of the assignment pages. And all the end dates and final dates and due dates are posted on Talon. So let's take a look at that. So this was the assignment, the 6 self-paced tutorials. It is due August 30th. So that's when you should turn it in. That's the goal. So that's coming right up in just a few days here. So make sure you have that. However, if you don't have it done by August 30th, you still have until September 2nd. That available date is where the Dropbox closes and you will not be able to get in. If you cannot get in, you cannot upload your files. You can't upload your files, I've got nothing to grade. So just kind of be aware of that. Make sure you try and shoot for those due dates, but if you can't, definitely the available date. And then there's no penalty for turning it in a little bit late because I know things happen throughout the week and so forth, but I do want you to make sure you kind of stay on top of it for yourself so you don't get behind by mistake. There's always work to do in these modules, so they'll always have something to turn in. Here's the end of the slide. Play around with SketchUp. That is part of the assignment, to play around with it. Look at the SketchUp videos on the website and then submit to Talon the self-paced tutorials. And that's 3 points. So that's it. That's how the modules are going to work out. That's how the class is working out. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Otherwise, looking forward to seeing your projects.